Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to my library tour of 2022. We have a very weird lighting situation going on here. I don't know really how to explain that. I am cast into shadow, but I'm hoping that the books will look just fine. You're not here to look at me. You're here to look at the books. So let's do another shelf here. These next few shelves are going to be a bit of a trial because I'm on the floor. First, I was on a step stool, then I was standing, then I was on a chair, and now I am on the floor, which is a perfectly good sitting arrangement, but I don't know that I can get back up. And you will reach that age if you are not at that age, where you also wonder, where you get down on the floor for whatever reason, maybe there's a part under the sink or something that needs to be fixed, and you think not only, I don't know if I can get back up, but well, I'm okay living down here forever if I have to. You don't believe it, but you don't believe that you're ever going to need your hands to get up and out of a chair. You someday will. Anyway, so we'll go through another shelf here of these books, and we'll start with Gary Maynard's book Plum Belly. I've mentioned this many times before. It's an independently published nautical novel about three young people just sailing away from a town that has nothing but problems for them. Of course, when in a novel like that, you are going to encounter problems. You're not going to be able to leave them behind. This isn't Jimmy Buffett, but it's really, really good, beautifully written. I wrote a review of it for the Martha's Vineyard Gazette. If I can remember, I will leave a link to it down below. That was the only crosswise book. Then we move on to oh great, oh fantastic. So what have we got here? There's some sort of paperwork involved. Somebody leave me a little mash note in here. Why do I have paperwork in this thing? Well, I certainly don't need it. Oh, I don't need that at all. All right, let's just look at the book. This is by Charles Seabrook, and it is called The World of the Salt Marsh. And that on the cover is a stereotypical salt marsh. I have spent so much time mucking around and paddling around in salt marshes exactly like that, all up and down the eastern seacoast. All up and down the eastern seacoast, and all through a couple of other places in western Canada and in the northern United States where you can find salt marshes. They are an amazing location. They really are. They are an amazing location. They take a bit of getting used to, especially if you're going to overnight. If you're going to spend time in them instead of, just going from somebody's dock to somebody's pier, if you're going to spend time in them, then you have to be a little bit on the careful side because they can be a little disorienting. But they are wonderful. I have actually overnighted in salt marshes in winter, and I know the rhythm of salt marshes. I know what they're like, and I think they're fascinating. So whenever a new book comes along about one, I grab it. Okay, then we have a classic. This is The Annotated Origin. This is annotated by James Costa, who's done a number of good books on his own. There is an iguana on the cover, fittingly enough. And this is it's a longer book, but it's The Origin of Species with huge annotations all throughout. This is I often look at this and think, boy, I wish I had a hardcover of that, but I like the paperback just fine. Paperback works just fine. Okay, all right. This next book made it into this room. Do you have paperwork as well? Yes, this is from November of 2017. Made it into this room because I found it endlessly fascinating. Because the title, this is by Rich Savin Williams and is called Mostly Straight: Sexual Fluidity Among Men. And I thought it was fascinating, just fantastically done. I'm not going to insult us both by calling it a touchy subject, but it is a complex subject. It's not an easy thing to study, even when you have willing volunteers. Okay, then the next two are hardcovers. I know there's a third out there. I don't know if I'm ever going to encounter it. I'm not going to pay online prices for it, that's for sure. Eyes on the Prize. Okay, yes, that is the bean futzing around on the bed. But, hi, baby, what are you doing back there? But nevertheless, eyes, oh God. Oh God. Baby, we're not staying in here. You don't have to dig to China. You don't have to get comfortable. We're not staying in here, baby girl. I'm just going to finish this shelf. the psychic pressure I live with. Anyway, these are 2 volumes. I believe there is a third, but I don't have the third. I've never seen it at the Brattle, and I don't want to pay online prices. And that is not code for me saying that I want you to pay online prices. I will find the third book eventually. These are Robert E. Howard Conan stories, fittingly enough, since we're entering into week 2 of FFS, which is all about sword and sorcery fantasy, of which Conan is the undisputed king. We have The People of the Black Circle and Red Nails. In these 2 uniform editions. They've got the uninterrupted cover art on the back, and I know there's a third, but I don't have it. I sure wish I did. Then we have a series here. This is edited by A.C. Ward with illustrations by Ernest Shepard, who you'll know as the illustrator of Winnie the Pooh. And this is Everybody's Lamb. Bean, do you mind? I'm trying to get something done here. Oh, God. What are you doing? What are you doing? Don't know what she's doing. The reason this is called, this was a takeoff from a book that was done called Everybody's Boswell, Everybody's Johnson, or Everybody's Boswell, which was a takeoff of the fact that if you have a critical edition of some canonical work where one literary poobah does all the notes and the introduction and whatnot, that literary edition starts to become known as so-and-so such and such because it's their edition. And the gimmick here is that this is for everybody. This is also a selection of Lamb, but it's not any one person's critical vision, and you have these great illustrations all throughout. As you get a lot of Lamb, just a lot of the stuff that he wrote, the things that he went through. I don't have it with the other Everybody's volumes. There's an Everybody's Lamb, there's an Everybody's Peeps, and there's an Everybody's Boswell. And I don't think there are any others, but there are those 3 at least, and they're not in print anymore, but they're delightful. They're all illustrated by Shepard, and they're all delightful. Let's see here. Okay, this next one is a trade paperback of The View from Lazy Point by the great Carl Safina. This is a natural history of one particular point that he knows really well, and it's a very traditional approach to this sort of thing in natural history writing. He just lives with that place throughout the season, throughout the year. Beautifully, beautifully written. With, I believe, a blurb by yours truly. New York Review of Books, The Economist, Newsday. Oh no, that's not right. New York Post. But I know that I wrote a review of this book, and I know that it was appreciated in all the right quarters. Providence Journal, National Geographic, Miami Herald, Book List, Publishers Weekly, Outside Magazine, Peter Mathiasson, Edward Hoagland. Oh, there I am. Okay, Steve Donoghue. Okay, and I write that I was flat out blown away because this is beautiful, ecstatic natural history writing. Okay, then we have one of my rare book depository purchases. I really need to set aside a little bit of money every month for book depository just to stay in the game. But for a while there, I had boxes coming from book depository, and this is one of the things that I kept. This is a little squat trade paperback of Lonesome Dove, Larry McMurtry's great novel Lonesome Dove. This paperback comes in at 843 pages, so it will do for March of the Mammoths. If you haven't read this book, you will love it. Then we have an old Time Inc. paperback. Some of you will remember these things. This is Man of the Renaissance. Ralph Roeder did. It's a multi profile. It's sort of a look at the Italian Renaissance through a series of profiles. The most pronounced and memorable of which is his long profile of Machiavelli, which is really great. And this is, I don't think I've ever seen this in any other edition. These old Time Inc. paperbacks, see there, can you make that out in this weird light? They are not well made. The binding is really, really bad. If you encounter one of these things, you'll almost always encounter them cracked. And on top of that, the covers are not they're not anything like the paper that you would use for a normal paperback cover. They're more like cardboard. And whatever material they're made out of, boy, oh boy, does it age poorly. As you find one of these things, these are 60 years old now. If you find one of these things at a yard sale, you can literally crack the cover into pieces. Just because it's old paper, you shouldn't be able to do that. I keep it because, I don't know why, I keep it because I don't want to be without the book. But I really ought to look around online and see what kind of an edition is out there that is, I can't read this, so I shouldn't have it. Okay, then we have G.S. Street. This is a book of essays, somewhat battered condition thing, but I believe there are a whole bunch of literary things in here. He wrote an essay in here about the opera. He wrote an essay in here, a very topical thing. This was done 115 years ago, something like 1902. And there's an article in here on the eternal problem of the Jew. So that doesn't age very well, but then essays like that never do. But I thought there were, there's a whole section in here on books and men that has pieces on Trollope and Byron and whatnot. That's the reason that I have this thing. Although since that's the reason that I have it, it shouldn't be here, right? It should be in the bookcase about books and authors. Same thing with this next one. This is James Fields. This is an old hardcover. When was this made? Oh, God, very long time ago. 1871. This is an old hardcover of Yesterdays with Authors by James Fields, the great Boston publisher. That is just, it's mostly Dickens. Fields dined out for the whole of his life on all of the times that Dickens came to Boston or corresponded with him or whatnot. But you also got Hawthorne and Thoreau and Emerson and whatnot. Again, it shouldn't be here. This is not the place for such books. I have a bookcase for such books. And I don't love it so much that it belongs in here. I think it was just convenience. So that's 3 in a row that could go. The Man of the Renaissance should not be in here because this is my little book room. This is the ne plus ultra of my book collection. There should not be a book in this room that I don't read, and I can't read Man of the Renaissance in this paperback. I haven't even attempted it in a little while because it creaks and cracks every time I do it. And Book of Essays and Yesterdays with Authors should not be in here either. I like them, but they belong in my Books About Books bookcase in the other room. Certainly not in here where space is at a premium for stuff that I actively love. And then we'll finish up with an anthology, actually 2 anthologies. This is science fiction, edited by Gardner Dozois, the late great Gardner Dozois. This is The Good Stuff, in a very battered trade paperback that I had to rescue. And the reason why I call it 2 anthologies is because it's an anthology called The Good Stuff, which is a collection of stuff that Gardner Dozois really, really likes. Fans of science fiction in old, jam-packed used bookstores dedicated to science fiction and fantasy used to say, Dozois used to get this question, and he also used to ask it. They would go up to the bearded proprietor and say, I just want the good stuff. What's something really good? And so this has The Good Stuff and The New Good Stuff. It has both of those anthologies that Gardner Dozois did along those lines. And whether or not they hold up to scrutiny, well, let's take a look. Let's look at, there's The Good Old Stuff and The Good New Stuff. What is the table of contents for The Good Old Stuff? A.E. Van Vogt, James Schmidt, L. Sprague de Camp, Jack Vance, C.M. Kornbluth, Leigh Brackett, Murray Leinster, Paul Anderson, Gordon Dixon, The Man in the Mailbag, Cordwainer Smith, Mother Hitton's Little Kittens, Brian Aldiss, H. Beam Piper, Ursula Le Guin, Semley's Necklace, Fritz Leiber, Roger Zelazny, James Tiptree, Mother in the Sky with Diamonds, and that's it. So what about the new good stuff? We have John Varley, George R. R. Martin, The Way of Cross and Dragon, Swarm by Bruce Sterling, Michael Swanwick, Werner Vinge, Janet Kagan, Walter John Williams, Prayers on the Wind, that's a pretty good story, Maureen McHugh, G. David Nordley, Robert Reed, George Turner, Stephen Baxter, R. Garcia E. Robertson, Tony Daniel, Paul McAuley, Peter Hamilton, and Mary Rosenblum. So you can see the new good stuff. Half of the names did not go on to become renowned or reprinted or beloved. Half of them were just what Gardner Dozois was liking in that season. And a whole bunch of names that are missing from both of those collections. But so idiosyncratic, but still good. Although nowhere near the best science fiction anthology, not even in the top 10 of best science fiction anthologies that I've read. So again, we've got 4 in a row. What are any of these things doing in here when I could clear off half a shelf for other things? So I will attend to that. Not during the library tour, but once I'm done with this room, I will pause the library tour to make sense of this room, go through and act on the lessons that I am learning. So we've got one more shelf to do. It's all the way down at the floor. I'm going to leave the camera where it is and just suffer next time. So I will wrap this up. I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.